The Chicago Bulls are still trying to navigate their way to trying to build this team out to be much better for the foreseeable future. And I don't necessarily think that the Chicago Bulls will be able to get and acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, but could there be a way for them to sneak into the Giannis Antetokounmpo talks? Y'all know we gonna talk about it on today's episode, but you gotta hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in with us, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Hey, man, it's been a great weekend. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all's because we get to continue to talk about our Chicago Bulls and other things going on around the sports world. But on today, we're trying to see if the Chicago Bulls can sneak into the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade talks, simply because it's very, very interesting, to say the least. And we trying to see how the Chicago Bulls can go out there and become a better team. We desperately need a playoff game and more than just a play-in game for our Chicago Bulls nation. So my man's Liam Willerup from Bleacher Report came out with an interesting article on how a blockbuster trade can include the Chicago Bulls. It does not get the Chicago Bulls Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I know that's going to be a little gut punch to some people like, oh my God, we got to get Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Chicago Bulls uniform. I don't necessarily want that to happen. I don't necessarily think that will happen. Because if the Chicago Bulls are going to go out there and try to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, we ain't doing much. I just keep it real with you. We won't be doing much. The team will be completely gutted. And we won't be contending for much. Maybe another play-in spot if we keeping it a buck. But at the end of the day, I think there is a way that the Chicago Bulls can continue to improve, add young talent, and then take a step forward by getting themselves involved in a blockbuster trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, this is a lengthy trade that includes 4 teams, and this is after my man's Liam Willerup heard and seen and read some reports that Giannis Antetokounmpo might have some interest in going to the Toronto Raptors. So the way that it's all mapped out, it's a hefty trade. So we just going to try to break it down in simplest terms for those that are listening and for those of you that are watching over here on the YouTube side. So obviously the Toronto Raptors, they're going to receive Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jalen Smith, and Javon Carter. Really, really good for the Chicago Bulls to get rid of Javon Carter and possibly Jalen Smith. The Milwaukee Bucks will receive R.J. Barrett, Grady Dick, Chris Boucher, Jacoby Walter, Gabe Vincent, and a number of picks. Just know it's a lot of them. A lot of them. The Los Angeles Lakers will receive Jakob Poeltl and Lonzo Ball from the Chicago Bulls. And the Chicago Bulls, in return, by sneaking into this trade, will then receive Dalton Knecht, Jared Vanderbilt, Shake Milton, AJ Lawson, $10 million trade exception, $9 million trade exception, $1.5 million trade exception for getting rid of Javon Carter. And I'll leave it up just for a little bit longer so you all can just break it down and let me cook. I love the trade, personally, just me. I know there is still some concerns about, at least right now, while we're not into the draft yet and have not made a selection at the draft. But if you get yourself involved in this, you get a young Dalton Knecht, who I really, really like coming out of Tennessee this past year in last year's draft. And I think got a lot of offensive game to him. Then you get a Jared Vanderbilt, a solid 3-and-D guy, definitely on the tail end, somebody that you could probably just wash with your hands and not have to really worry about moving forward. Shake Milton, not really too excited about that. And then AJ Lawson, but you get some money in return. The only downfall, so I say I like the trade. Let's go back on that. I like the trade, But the Chicago Bulls look like they'll be given, you know what I'm saying, not really being invested or getting any draft capital back. But the ultimate goal for the Chicago Bulls this offseason was making their selection with their own draft pick, and then also going out there and being and creating flexibility for themselves in 2026. Taking on guys like a Jared Vanderbilt, Shake Milton, and potentially a AJ Lawson offers you that, and then you get a young player back by simply just letting go Lonzo Ball, Jalen Smith, and Javon Carter. The reason why I change it from love to like is because Nikola Vucevic is still on the team. But that does not, at least with this trade, but that does not mean you can't go out and still move Nikola Vucevic, but ahead of the NBA draft. Now, if this is something that happens after the NBA draft, you still find yourself in a really good position with a guy like Dalton Knecht who can come in and, let's just say for the sake of discussion, you have your Giddey, Kobe White, Dalton Knecht, Montes Buzelis, and then whoever you select at 12, who I hope is a big. You know what I'm saying? And that's a nice young group to run with. And if you want to go out there and hang on to a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, cool, fine, and dandy. But then on the flip side, you open up the books and then you add on to the books. So I think it's a very, very interesting trade to say the least, because I don't think that the Chicago Bulls have anything to go out there and get Giannis Antetokounmpo without saying, Josh Giddey, you're gone, Kobe White, you're gone, Montes Buzelis, you're gone, and here's a couple picks. That's just how I'm looking at it, simply because if the Milwaukee Bucks are very, very interested in moving off Giannis Antetokounmpo, they want young players, they want assets. And I think that if the Chicago Bulls were to explore an option for Giannis Antetokounmpo, yeah, you ain't with Giannis Antetokounmpo on his team. Look, it'll be great. I'll be happy as hell to see him drop 30 and 15 on every single night. But then also, we got to remember who's going to be around this young player. Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry. It ain't much moving. I ain't going to lie to you. It ain't that much moving. But I think that if you can some way, somehow get yourself involved in what is expected to be a blockbuster trade, you give yourself an opportunity to potentially come out with some young, good talent. Dalton Knecht kind of fell off with the Los Angeles Lakers simply because maybe the age, maybe the youth, and they didn't really trust him enough. Me personally, I feel like they should have gave him every ample opportunity to see if he can prove himself. But you can't fault the man because they tried to trade him and then rescinded the trade and sent them back. I would have been ticked off too, and I would have been like, yeah, to hell with y'all. Get me out of here. Like, by all any means necessary. Get me out of here. I'm just saying. Now, if we looking at it and saying if it works best for all teams involved, I think for the Los Angeles Lakers, you get yourself another point guard that can go out there and operate, you know what I'm saying, off the bench. When Luka goes to sit down, and then you say, I bet we can let him run. And then you get yourself some center help. For the Milwaukee Bucks, you get good players, young players with a bunch of picks. For the Toronto Raptors, you get Giannis, an additional big, and a three-point shooter in Javon Carter. I think it works for everybody, personally. You're not going to be able to get every single thing that you want in these trade talks. And I think that, looking at it, everybody comes out at least with a lowercase dub, except the Toronto Raptors. A lowercase dub should be good for everybody, unless you're the Toronto Raptors, who gets the big fish. You know what I'm saying? And like, maybe the Milwaukee Bucks get an uppercase dub, because now you get young players with a bevy of picks. Like, it's just crazy when it comes to the picks. And let's bring it up one more time, just to see. Most of these draft picks will be coming from either the Lakers, or what it looks like, yeah, mostly the Lakers and the Raptors. So it's looking like, at least right now, that the Chicago Bulls will still retain the rights to future draft aspects. Now I'm starting to lean on the love aspect again when it comes to the trade, simply because, yes, you're getting young players. Yes, you moved off some of the older guys from still kind of like in that middle of iteration one, and now moving on to iteration two. Because I necessarily don't believe in Javon Carter still being with the Chicago Bulls moving forward. Jalen Smith, I think that's a decision you'll have to make, and you'll be like, okay, cool, I'm willing to move off of him. Lonzo Ball. I know that a lot of us still love him. Hell, I still love him. But knowing what I know and what we've been through, I think it's best to just separate. Now, if he's still on a team, I'm still going to celebrate and believe that he could still bring a lot to the Chicago Bulls coming off the bench for the Chicago Bulls. Personally, I still think Lonzo Ball got some game to him. My only question is how's the wrist now? We know that the lower extremity appears to be in good favor, but can we bank on it is my biggest thing with Lonzo Ball. I am not 100% confident that we won't hear many more things coming out of Lonzo Ball with lower extremity injuries. I'm not trying to put bad juju on a young fella, but I gotta go with what history has told me and my mans and him and his brothers. And there was two different grown men. I respectfully, there's two different grown men. But those ankle injuries, those knee injuries have been plagues to the Ball family. Just call it how we see it. Lonzo Ball appears to seem like he be turning that corner. He does. But the injuries still have been coming up. Now it's not the lower extremities. Now it's the wrist. You know what I'm saying? The injury. So I still will have my reservations on that if Lonzo Ball is still a Chicago Bull. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I still think that Lonzo Ball could be additional help for the Chicago Bulls. But I think that though you cannot go out there and get Giannis, though I think they should not try to go in-house everything for Giannis, even though we heard reports that they was willing to give up everything for Luka Doncic. Call it how you see it. I don't really know why. Just be personally. No, I get it to a degree. I get it why you were willing to give up the house for Luka in this sense. He's a superstar. I get it. And it would have been a swing, and you'd be like, hold on, damn, it ain't been a young superstar in Chicago since what? Derrick Rose? And then you would have been like, I bet. And you would rock with it and see how they can navigate and maneuver and see how they could build around Luka, which would have been a difficult task because we know some of the limitations that you have as a team with Luka on your team. So it would have been very, very interesting. But I think that right now the Chicago Bulls need to kind of stay the course. I believe the Chicago Bulls need to stay the course with this youth movement, and then you add on pieces, but do not gut yourself so bad that you don't even have a foundation to build on. You know what I mean? And I think that if you go out there and you try to throw all the eggs in the basket for Giannis Antetokounmpo, you still end up in mediocrity. Yes, it will still be good, and then the front office will have to get very, very creative. I just don't have that amount of trust in my front office at this particular moment. Couldn't they have done something? Absolutely. But will they? Yeah, I can't trust it. So I say, don't try to trade for Giannis, but try to see if you can sneak your way into the conversation that will benefit the Chicago Bulls. Because what sounds better to me is Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Dalton Knecht, Montes Buzelis with the big that you could potentially draft in this year's draft. That sounds better than Giannis Antetokounmpo and what else? And what else? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that you'll definitely have to navigate between some stuff, because if you traded for a superstar like that, Milwaukee is going to want Montes Buzelis. That's just what it is. Will you still be able to retain Josh Giddey? I don't know. Kobe White, more than likely going with Montes Buzelis to Milwaukee. And I wouldn't want to trade him right up the road to Milwaukee. That's just me personally. I'd rather hang on to those young assets, allow those young assets to run with a guy like Dalton Knecht, and then we see what's up with it. But I don't think that's the end all be all. It is just speculation. Don't get it misconstrued. It is just speculation. However, I'm going to stand 10 toes down and say that the Chicago Bulls are not ready to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm still going to stand on that hill. But if you can find your way to sneak in the trade talks and get something that benefits you, and you are able to move off Javon Carter, Jalen Smith, and Lonzo Ball in return for young pieces and expiring contracts that open up more money for you, that's a better route than saying, hey, it's time to trade for a superstar like Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo. But hey, let me know where y'all stand on today's topic, man, because that is it. Just wanted to bring one of those quick hitters. Me and C-Dub, we should be back later today with another episode. Be on the lookout for that. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode, man. Before y'all go, make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. We appreciate y'all over here. We getting closer and closer to that AK. So I appreciate all the support and love that's been coming our way. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all always see red. And y'all already know. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac. Gang.